The massive command center of the Arcturian flagship glowed with soft blue light, reflecting off the crystalline surfaces of its crew members. Commander Gray stood at the main viewport, his tall, angular form casting long shadows across the polished floor. His crystalline structure caught the light from distant stars, sending small rainbows dancing across the walls. "Show me the target planet again," he ordered, his voice carrying the characteristic chime of his species. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a beautiful blue-green planet hanging in space. Earth, such a simple name for their next conquest. The commander's crystalline fingers tapped against the control panel, creating gentle tinkling sounds. "Sir, the beast is ready for deployment," reported Lieutenant Stone, another crystalline being, though smaller and with fewer facets than the commander. "The latest upgrades have been installed." Gray turned around, his facets gleaming with satisfaction. The beast was their greatest achievement, a perfect mixture of biological and mechanical engineering. Standing 30 feet tall with armor plating that could withstand direct hits from most known weapons, it had never failed to break the will of any species they had encountered. "These humans," Gray mused, examining the data scrolling across multiple screens. "They're quite interesting, aren't they?" "Sir," Stone tilted his head, causing light to scatter in new patterns. "Look at their history. They fight constantly among themselves, yet they've survived countless disasters. Their technology is primitive compared to ours, but they keep advancing at a remarkable rate." Gray moved closer to the displays, "and their emotional responses are unusual." The screens showed various human reactions to crisis situations. Where other species typically fled from danger, humans often ran toward it. They entered burning buildings to save strangers. They jumped into dangerous waters to rescue animals. They formed strong bonds with other species on their planet, treating them as family members. "Peculiar behavior," Stone commented. "Perhaps they're not intelligent enough to recognize danger." Gray shook his head, his crystalline structure creating a musical chime. "No, that's not it. They recognize the danger. They choose to face it anyway. That's what makes them concerning." Walking to another console, Gray pulled up the beast's specifications. The massive war machine had been designed using data from 1,000 conquered worlds. Its very appearance was calculated to trigger primal fear responses in carbon-based life forms. Its neural processors were programmed to analyze enemy behavior and adapt its tactics for maximum psychological impact. "We've never failed before," Gray stated, more to himself than to his lieutenant. "Every species has surrendered after seeing the beast in action. Some didn't even require a demonstration." The commander brought up footage from their previous conquests. The beast towering over alien cities, its massive form blocking out suns. The way its armor shifted and moved, mimicking the most feared predators from 100 worlds. The psychological warfare algorithms that let it identify and exploit any weakness in enemy morale. "Sir, the advanced scouts report that human military forces are gathering in a region they call Montana," Stone reported. "Shall we begin the standard intimidation protocol?" Gray studied the tactical display for a moment. The humans had indeed gathered a defensive force, but their formation was unlike anything in their database. Instead of fortifying positions or preparing heavy weapons, they seemed to be waiting, just waiting in an open area. "Something's different about this species," Gray muttered. "Run another tactical analysis. I want to know everything about their psychological warfare techniques." "Yes, sir," Stone responded, but paused before leaving. "Sir, are you concerned about the mission?" Gray turned back to the viewport, watching Earth grow larger as their fleet approached. "No, Lieutenant. The beast has never failed us. But these humans, they don't react like other species. We need to be prepared for anything." As the commander watched his fleet move into position, he couldn't shake the feeling that this conquest might not follow their usual pattern. But with the beast at their disposal, how could they possibly fail? Little did Commander Gray know that on the planet below, The humans were about to introduce him to something his species had never encountered before, something that would change everything they thought they knew about warfare and intimidation. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Montana field as Captain Tom Miller watched his troops set up their positions. Unlike the usual military formations, this one felt different. There were no heavy tanks, no missile batteries, just a scattered array of basic defensive positions and a lot of open space. And then there was Max. The golden retriever sat calmly beside Miller, his tail sweeping gentle arcs in the grass. Some of the other officers had questioned bringing a therapy dog to an alien confrontation, but Miller knew better. He reached down to scratch behind Max's ears, earning a happy thump of the tail. "Sir." A young soldier ran up, trying to catch his breath. "The alien transmission is coming through." Miller nodded and made his way to the command tent, Max trotting faithfully beside him. Inside, the air was thick with tension as officers gathered around a large screen. The image flickered to life, showing the crystalline form of Commander Gray. "People of Earth," the alien's voice chimed like breaking glass. "We are the Arcturian fleet, and we claim your world as our territory. Surrender now, and you will be allowed to live under our rule. Resist, and we will unleash forces beyond your comprehension." Max tilted his head at the sound, ears perking forward with curiosity rather than fear. Miller noticed how several soldiers relaxed slightly at the dog's calm reaction. That was exactly why he'd insisted on keeping Max with the unit. Dogs had an uncanny ability to sense danger, and their reactions often helped soldiers stay focused. "General Woods." Miller turned to his superior. "Permission to speak with the alien commander." The general looked down at Max, then back at Miller. "You're sure about this approach, Captain?" "Yes, sir. If what our scientists say is true, these aliens rely heavily on fear tactics. They're expecting us to either cower or respond with aggression. We need to show them something different." After a moment's consideration, Woods nodded. "All right, Miller, but keep that dog under control." The transmission was reopened, and Miller stepped forward, Max sitting perfectly at attention beside him. The alien commander's crystalline features seemed to shift in what might have been surprise at seeing the human with an animal companion. "Commander Gray," Miller spoke clearly and calmly. "I am Captain Miller of Earth's Defense Forces. We acknowledge your presence and request a peaceful demonstration of your intentions." There was a pause, during which Max let out a small, curious whine. Several soldiers suppressed smiles. Even in the face of an alien invasion, the dog's innocent reactions brought comfort. "You wish to see our power?" Gray's voice held a note of confusion. "Very well. Prepare yourselves. In 1 hour, we will show you why resistance is futile." As the transmission ended, the command tent burst into activity. Officers rushed to prepare their troops, but Miller remained calm, one hand resting on Max's head. "Sir," a young lieutenant approached, "shouldn't we be deploying our heavy weapons?" Miller shook his head. "No, we stick to the plan. These aliens expect us to either fight or run. Instead, we're going to show them something they've never seen before: friendship." "Friendship? Sir, they're threatening to conquer us." "Look at Max here." Miller gestured to the dog, who was now happily accepting pets from a nervous soldier. "He's not afraid because he doesn't approach anything with fear first. That's humanity's real strength. We can turn enemies into friends, find common ground with the different, and show compassion even in the face of threats." Outside, the alien ships had begun moving into position, their massive forms blocking out patches of the morning sun. Soldiers watched nervously, but every time they looked at Max's calm demeanor, they found their own fears easier to manage. "Whatever they're planning to show us," Miller said to his troops, "remember, we're not here to fight. We're here to understand." And sometimes, understanding starts with a simple, friendly gesture. As if to emphasize his point, Max gave a happy bark, causing several soldiers to laugh despite the tension. Above them, The alien ships continued their ominous positioning, preparing to unleash what they considered their ultimate weapon. Little did they know, Earth's secret weapon was already deployed, wagging its tail and bringing smiles to nervous faces. The hour passed quickly. Commander Gray stood in his control room, watching the final preparations for the beast's deployment. His crystalline form sparkled with anticipated triumph as the massive bay doors on his flagship began to open. "Begin recording," he ordered. "I want every reaction documented. This will be added to our conquest archives." On the ground below, Captain Miller and his troops watched as something enormous emerged from the alien ship. The beast was even more impressive in person than their scans had suggested. Standing 30 feet tall, its biomechanical form seemed to shift and change in the morning light. Its armor plates, designed to mimic the most fearsome predators from 100 worlds, rippled like living metal. Max sat calmly beside Miller, tail still wagging gently. "That's their super weapon," someone whispered. "It looks like a giant robot dog." Miller studied the beast more carefully. Now that it was mentioned, he could see it too. Despite all its fearsome features, the plasma cannons mounted on its shoulders, the razor-sharp claws, the intimidating size, its basic form did share some similarities with a canine. The way it moved, the proportions of its limbs, even the way its head was shaped. The beast's footsteps shook the ground as it approached the human positions. Its neural processors scanned the gathered soldiers, expecting to detect waves of fear. Instead, it registered curiosity. Commander Gray's voice boomed from the ship above. "Behold the instrument of your defeat. The beast has conquered countless worlds. All who have faced it have surrendered or been destroyed. But something unexpected was happening below. Instead of running or raising weapons, the humans were smiling." Max chose that moment to stand up, his tail wagging faster. Before anyone could react, he gave an excited bark. The beast froze mid-step. Its processors had never encountered this response before. It was programmed to react to fear, to aggression, to hostile intent. But friendly interest, that wasn't in its database. "What is that small creature?" Gray demanded, his voice showing confusion for the first time. "This is Max," Miller called back, keeping his voice friendly and calm. "He's a dog, one of our companion animals, and I think he wants to say hello to your beast." The beast's head tilted slightly, mimicking Max's curious pose. Its complex systems tried to analyze the situation, but nothing in its programming covered this scenario. "Companion. Animal." Gray's voice held genuine bewilderment. "You keep other species as companions?" "Of course," Miller replied. "Max here helps our soldiers stay calm and happy. He's specially trained to provide comfort and friendship." The beast took another step forward, its massive form casting shadows over the gathered humans. But instead of cowering, Max trotted forward happily, looking up at the mechanical giant with pure doggy joy. "This is unprecedented," Gray muttered, forgetting his voice was still being projected. "The beast's intimidation protocols are failing." Indeed, the massive war machine seemed unsure how to proceed. Its weapons remained powered down, its threatening posture softening as it watched Max's friendly display. The dog sat down in front of the beast, tail sweeping the grass, looking up expectantly as if waiting for a new playmate to join in. Several soldiers had to suppress laughs at the absurd scene. A tiny therapy dog completely disarming the alien's ultimate weapon through simple friendliness. "Sir," Miller called up to the ship, "would you like to come down and meet Max properly? He's very good with new friends." There was a long pause. The beast remained motionless, its sophisticated systems still trying to process this unexpected turn of events. Its neural networks, designed for combat and intimidation, were being rewritten by this simple encounter with unconditional friendship. Finally, Gray's voice returned, sounding less commanding and more curious. "You're Max." It shows no fear. "Fear isn't always the best response to something new," Miller explained. "Sometimes friendship works better than fear." As if to prove his point, Max gave another happy bark, and to everyone's amazement, the beast lowered its massive head, moving closer to inspect this tiny creature that had completely disrupted its programming. Commander Gray watched from above, realizing that perhaps they had gravely misunderstood what made a species truly powerful. The tension in the air shifted as everyone watched the remarkable scene unfolding before them. The beast, the most feared weapon in the Arcturian arsenal, was now crouched low, its massive head tilted in confusion as Max continued his friendly display. Analyzing anomaly, the beast's artificial voice rumbled, speaking for the first time. Its tone was deep but held a note of uncertainty. Unable to process current situation. No fear detected. No aggression detected. Behavior pattern unknown. Max, completely unfazed by the talking mechanical giant, did what dogs do best. He play-bowed, his front end low and rear end high, tail wagging even faster. This universal dog invitation to play caused several soldiers to chuckle. From his command center, Commander Gray watched in fascination. "What is this movement the small creature is making?" he asked, his crystalline form shifting in confusion. Captain Miller smiled. "That's called a play bow. It's how dogs invite others to play with them. Max wants to be friends with your beast." The beast's processors whirred audibly as it attempted to understand this concept. Its head lowered further, bringing it closer to Max's level. The size difference was staggering. Max's entire body was barely the size of one of the beast's eyes. "Lieutenant Stone," Gray called to his second-in-command, "are you seeing this? The beast's combat protocols, they're changing." Indeed, the massive war machine's behavior was shifting. Its threatening features, the plasma cannons, the sharp edges, the intimidating armor, were slowly adjusting. The metal plates smoothed out, the weapons powered down, and its posture became less aggressive. Max, growing bolder, trotted right up to the beast's massive face and gave it a friendly lick. The soldiers held their breath, but instead of reacting with aggression, the beast made a sound that could almost be described as a confused whimper. "Error," the beast announced. "Primary directive conflict detected. Unable to maintain threat protocols in presence of friend." The word friend came out as a question, as if the beast was testing a completely new concept. Max responded with an enthusiastic bark, his whole body wiggling with excitement. Miller stepped forward slowly, keeping his movements calm and deliberate. "That's right," he called up to the beast. "Max wants to be your friend. No fear, no fighting, just friendship." The beast's huge head swiveled between Miller and Max, its glowing eyes flickering as it processed this new information. Query: is this normal human behavior? To offer friendship to potential threats? "It's one of our best qualities," Miller replied. "We've learned that making friends is often better than making enemies. Max here is specially trained to help people feel better, to turn fear into friendship." Above them, Commander Gray's voice held a mix of disbelief and fascination. "In all our conquests, across hundreds of worlds, we've never encountered a species that responded to the beast like this. Your small companion has disabled our greatest weapon with kindness." As if to demonstrate, Max picked up a nearby stick, comically small compared to the beast, and dropped it in front of the massive machine, tail wagging expectantly. The beast studied the stick, then looked at Max, then at Miller. Query: what is the tactical significance of this small wooden object? Miller laughed. "No tactical significance. He wants to play fetch with you. It's a game. You're supposed to pick up the stick and throw it for him to chase." The beast's massive clawed hand, designed to crush tanks, gently reached for the tiny stick. With incredible precision, it lifted the stick, causing Max to bounce excitedly in anticipation. "Processing. New directive accepted," the beast announced. "Initiating play protocol." The stick flew through the air, and Max raced after it with pure joy, bringing it back to drop at the beast's feet again. The mighty war machine, designed to inspire terror, was now learning the simple pleasure of playing fetch with a dog. Commander Gray's voice, when it came again, was thoughtful. "Captain Miller, I believe we may need to reconsider our approach to this conquest." Around them, soldiers relaxed as they watched the unlikely pair, a tiny therapy dog and a massive war machine, beginning to form what might be the strangest friendship in the history of both their species. Commander Gray paced in his control room, his crystalline form catching the light with each step. The massive screens before him displayed something he never thought he'd see. The beast, their ultimate weapon, playing fetch with a small earth creature. "Lieutenant Stone," Gray called out, "show me the beast's neural readings." The displays change, showing complex patterns of the beast's artificial mind. The changes were dramatic. Areas that normally pulse with combat protocols now showed entirely new patterns. The beast's core programming was literally being rewritten through its interaction with Max. Down on the field, the scene continued to evolve. After several rounds of fetch, Max had introduced a new game, chase. He would run in circles around the beast's massive feet, and the war machine would carefully turn to follow him, trying not to shake the ground too much with each step. "Observation," the beast announced, its voice noticeably softer than before. "Small friend Max appears to be teaching me." Query: "Is this what humans call play?" Captain Miller nodded, watching as Max darted between the beast's legs. "That's right. Play is how we learn, how we build trust and friendship. Max is showing you that not everything has to be about fear or fighting." The beast's armor, which had been designed to shift and change to appear more threatening, was now moving in a different way. The sharp edges were gone, replaced by smoother, more rounded forms. Its glowing eyes, once red with menace, had shifted to a softer blue. "Commander," Lieutenant Stone's voice was urgent. "The beast's original programming. It's being completely overwritten. Should we initiate emergency shutdown?" Gray held up a hand, silencing his lieutenant. "No, let it continue. I want to see where this leads." Max had now settled down next to one of the beast's massive feet, panting happily from all the running. To everyone's amazement, the beast lowered itself to the ground, carefully arranging its huge form to lie beside the small dog. Processing new emotional data, the beast said, "Previous protocols focused on creating fear. Current experience suggests alternative approach is superior." Query: "Why was friendship not included in original programming?" The question hung in the air, making Commander Gray shift uncomfortably. The beast's combat systems had been designed over centuries, incorporating the most effective ways to break enemy morale, but they had never considered programming it to make friends. "Captain Miller," Gray called down, his voice thoughtful, "your species continues to surprise us. We designed the beast to be the ultimate weapon, using fear as its primary tool. Yet your small companion has demonstrated something our entire civilization overlooked." Miller looked up at the alien ship. Sometimes the strongest connections aren't built on fear at all. Max here proves that every day. He helps soldiers deal with their fears and stress just by being friendly and supportive. The beast's processors hummed as it integrated this new information. Analyzing mission parameters. Original objective: conquer through fear. New understanding suggests friendship achieves superior results with fewer resources. Max, as if understanding the importance of the moment, stood up and pressed his furry body against the beast's metal leg in a typical dog hug. The war machine's sensors registered the gentle pressure, the warmth, the simple affection in the gesture. "Commander," the beast spoke, its voice carrying a new certainty. "Requesting permission to redesign primary protocols. Current evidence indicates friendship protocols more effective than fear protocols." Gray looked at his lieutenant, then back at the screen showing the beast's transforming neural patterns. Centuries of military doctrine were being challenged by a simple dog's unconditional friendship. "Perhaps," Gray said slowly, "we have been approaching conquest entirely wrong. Lieutenant Stone, begin analyzing all our historical data. I want to know how many worlds we could have befriended instead of conquered." Down below, Max had fallen asleep leaning against the beast's leg, completely trusting of his new giant friend. The beast, the most feared weapon in the galaxy, had become a gentle guardian, its massive form curled protectively around the small dog who had changed everything. The sun was starting to set over the Montana field, casting long shadows from both the beast's massive form and the alien ships hovering above. But the atmosphere had completely changed from the tense standoff of the morning. Now, small groups of human soldiers sat in circles on the grass, while Commander Gray and several other Arcturians had cautiously descended from their ships to observe more closely. "Fascinating," Gray said, his crystalline form catching the evening light as he watched Max demonstrate another game to the beast. "And you say these dogs naturally evolved alongside humans?" Captain Miller nodded. "They were wolves originally. Over thousands of years, they chose to live with us, and we chose to live with them. Both species changed because of that friendship." The beast was learning to play tug-of-war now, holding one end of a thick rope, hastily brought from a military truck, with just enough gentleness to not break it, while Max playfully growled and pulled on the other end. "Careful calibration required," the beast announced, applying 0.1% of maximum strength to maintain play parameters. "Experiencing enjoyment." Lieutenant Stone approached with a datapad. "Commander, you need to see this. The beast's neural network has developed completely new pathways. It's not just adapting, it's evolving." The massive war machine had indeed changed dramatically. Its formerly threatening appearance had shifted into something almost gentle, despite its size. The weapons systems had reconfigured themselves into more peaceful tools, and its movements had become smooth and careful. "Show me your relationship with these companions," Gray requested, turning to Miller. "How do humans and dogs work together?" Miller whistled softly, and Max immediately left his game with the beast, trotting over to sit beside him. "Dogs can be trained for all sorts of tasks, finding lost people, helping disabled individuals, or like Max here, providing emotional support. But mostly, they're just our friends." The beast processed this information, its glowing blue eyes flickering. Query: "Is this why human soldiers show unusual stress patterns? You have emotional connections with other species?" "That's right," Miller replied. "We don't just make weapons or train for war. We build relationships, care for others, even species very different from us. That's what makes us strong." Gray's crystalline form shifted in what seemed to be deep thought. "Our entire military strategy was based on the assumption that fear was the strongest motivator. But your species, you've shown us something stronger." Around them, other soldiers were sharing stories about their own pets with the curious Arcturian officers. Pictures of dogs, cats, and other animal companions were being shown on phones and tablets, with the crystalline aliens leaning in to study each one with fascination. "Updating primary directive," the beast suddenly announced. "New mission parameters established. Protect and nurture interspecies friendships. Request permission to be redesignated from beast to guardian." The request caught Gray by surprise. In all their years of conquest, none of their weapons had ever asked to be renamed, let alone change their core purpose. "The beast. The guardian," Gray corrected himself. "It's developing true autonomy. It's making choices based on friendship." Max had returned to the newly named guardian and was showing it how to roll over, a comical sight given the size difference. The massive machine carefully turned onto its side, causing a minor tremor in the ground, but successfully mimicking the dog's movement. "Commander," Miller said, "I think we've all learned something important today. Your civilization has incredible technology and power. We have something different, the ability to turn strangers into friends, to find family in unexpected places." Gray watched as more of his crystalline officers emerged from their ships, drawn by curiosity rather than combat protocols. They moved among the humans, learning about Earth's many companion species, discovering the concept of pets, a friendship across species lines. "Captain Miller," Gray finally said, "I believe it's time we discussed something other than conquest. Perhaps a cultural exchange program. I find myself quite interested in learning more about these dogs of yours." The Guardian, still lying on its side, gently patted the ground with one massive hand, inviting Max to play again. The small dog happily obliged, completely unaware that he had just changed the course of interstellar relations forever. 3 months after the historic first contact in Montana, the field had transformed. Where there was once empty grassland, now stood a gleaming structure, the first Earth-Arcturian Friendship Center. And at its heart was the most unlikely pair of training partners, the Guardian, formerly known as the Beast, and Max. The massive war machine, once the terror of countless worlds, now spent its days helping to train therapy dogs. Its gentle movements and infinite patience made it surprisingly good at the task. "Trainee Cooper shows excellent progress," the Guardian announced, watching a young golden retriever practice basic commands. "Social bonding indicators are within optimal range." Captain Miller, now serving as the chief human liaison to the Arcturians, smiled as he watched Max demonstrate proper therapy dog behavior to the new trainees. "Did you ever imagine this is where we'd end up?" he asked Commander Gray, who stood beside him in his crystalline form. "Never," Gray admitted, his structure catching the morning light. "Our entire civilization was built around the idea of conquest through fear. Now we're learning more from these therapy dogs than we ever did from our warfare studies." The Guardian had developed far beyond its original programming. Its massive form, once designed purely for intimidation, now featured specially designed areas where small dogs could safely ride along. Its neural networks had evolved to understand not just canine behavior, but the subtle emotional needs of both humans and Arcturians. "Social anxiety detected in Arcturian visitor," the Guardian reported, gently lowering a platform where Max sat, requesting therapy dog assistance. Max trotted over to a nervous-looking crystalline form, a young Arcturian student visiting Earth for the first time. The dog's friendly presence immediately caused the alien structure to relax, colors shifting to warmer hues. "It's still amazing to me," Lieutenant Stone commented, checking readings on a datapad. "Our most advanced weapon became our best teacher of emotional intelligence." Around them, the Friendship Center buzzed with activity. Human and Arcturian scientists worked together, studying the unique bond between dogs and humans, trying to understand how it might be applied to improve interstellar relations. Other former war machines, inspired by the Guardian's transformation, were being reprogrammed as helpers and peacekeepers. "Query for Captain Miller," the Guardian spoke, its voice carrying a new warmth that had developed over the months. "Max appears to be teaching the new dogs a behavior I don't recognize." Miller looked over to where Max was playing with the younger dogs, showing them a new game he had invented, a combination of hide and seek that he played with the Guardian's massive form. "That's creativity," Miller explained. "Max isn't just following his training anymore. He's making up new ways to help others feel comfortable around you." Commander Gray's crystalline form shifted in what had become recognizable as amazement. "To think we spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare, when all we needed was to learn how to play." The Guardian lowered itself to the ground, carefully creating hiding spots with its reconfigured armor plates. The young dogs, already completely comfortable with the giant machine, darted in and out of the spaces, with Max leading their game. "Update to primary protocols complete," the Guardian announced. "New understanding achieved. Peace through friendship is more powerful than control through fear." Query: "May I share this learning with other units?" "Of course," Gray approved. "In fact, we're already converting our entire fleet. No more conquest missions. From now on, we're focusing on peaceful contact and cultural exchange." Miller watched as Max finished his game and returned to his side, tail wagging. The small therapy dog looked up at the Guardian, then at the Arcturians, then back at Miller, clearly pleased with his new extended family. "You know," Miller said, scratching Max behind the ears, "when I first brought a therapy dog to an alien invasion, people thought I was crazy." "And now?" Gray asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "Now we're teaching the galaxy that the strongest weapons aren't weapons at all. They're friends." Miller smiled as Max barked in agreement. Sometimes the smallest among us can teach the biggest lessons. Above them, the Montana sky was filled with Arcturian ships, not in formation for war, but arriving with new machines ready to learn from Earth's therapy dogs. And at the center of it all, a small golden retriever continued to teach a former war machine the endless possibilities of friendship.